Hi everyone, welcome back. So let's say that something does get past your physical defenses. Well, we still have this really robust immune system, these secondary defenses that kick in the event that happens. So we have two main categories of our actual immune defenses that take place here. We have the non-specific defense mechanisms that we'll explore here today. And then we also have our specific defense systems that we have as well. These are responses that are more targeted. Okay, so again, non-specific. These are general responses. Like, I am being attacked. I don't know by what, but I'm going to take actions to kill, destroy, inhibit the growth of anything that's not, like our normal tissue, our human tissue. Specific defenses, specific responses are targeted, very highly specific. So we can categorize these defenses into two main categories that, are still related to specific and non-specific here. We have the innate immunity. So this is our immediate response. When you are sick with something, we are immediately responding to whatever that is. These are our first and second lines of defenses, so our barriers also fall within this category, barriers of entry. But also our second line of defense are the various white blood cells, the unique chemicals and proteins that we produce, and other body-wide processes that we use to fight this stuff when it happens. Now, despite being very quick to initiate, this is also relatively short-lived. It's not going to necessarily be going on for a long time. It's mostly like an immediate address of the issue and something to gather information that can be fed into the adaptive immunity. So the adaptive immunity is a delayed response by comparison, but it is a very long-lasting response. It will last not just for the period that you are recovering from this illness, but it lasts for a long time after. So this is a representation of what kind of falls into this category, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, but this is here for your reference if you need it. I'm gonna dive into these things more specifically. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is something we call the complement system. So the complement system is this system of small proteins, these little tiny proteins that can kind of come together, bind to one another, and have these really complex interactions that allow them to attack foreign cells. I like to describe it kind of like they're forming a Voltron, as like multiple proteins come together and bind to others and bind to others, until they form this structure that does, essentially two things. They act as a tag, a flag that alerts the immune system that something is here that doesn't belong, something that needs to be cleaned up or cleared. And the other thing that it does is, as it forms this Voltron of proteins, this complex, it will actually create a pore in a cell wall or membrane, ultimately causing the bacteria or whatever it is we're talking about to lyse, to break apart, which is kind of amazing. So they have this ability to like punch holes in bacteria. And there are around 50 proteins that make up the complement system in total. Again, part of our innate immune system, so it's not specific. It is very general. It's kind of always there. And it's always active too in some degree, and so it's very widely present. We're constantly making these proteins, but they don't survive very long on their own. So we have to keep on making them. The complement system is so interesting. It attacks almost basically anything, including our own cells. But we have our own defenses that prevent the complement system from damaging our cells. We also have the inflammatory response, redness and warmth and swelling and pain that arises from an infected site or a site of trauma. And so there's a few reasons, why this happens. There's lots of different ways that this can come about. One of the ways is that when cells are damaged, say that I stepped on a nail as I'm walking around a construction site. I step on this nail and I have an injury. This injury has also introduced bacteria into my body. But the damaged cells will, when they are broken or injured, they will release certain chemical signals. Some of them we're familiar with, like histamines. This is a big one I really want you to remember, histamines, but also bradykinin, prostaglandins, and cytokines, also really big, important compounds, especially cytokines. That these are triggers that cause a bunch of things to happen. One of them is that blood vessels in the area will begin to deliver more blood and release fluids to the tissues in the surrounding area. And it also triggers phagocytes to begin hunting in this area. Okay. Now, what is a phagocyte? Okay, a phagocyte is a type of white blood cells. Actually, a few different types of white blood cells. And so these are a really important part of the innate immune system. Again, non-specific, targeting basically anything that doesn't look like one of your cells, although it can be kind of pointed using the adaptive immune system in the right direction. Like if you know now what is infecting you, your adaptive immune system can work with these phagocytes and kind of direct them to attack things that it's specifically looking for. So there's a few different kinds of white blood cells. We're going to explore this in a moment that are phagocytes. But a phagocyte is a specific white blood cell that can do phagocytosis. The process of a white blood cell swallowing something else, some kind of foreign particle or cell. So these phagocytes, they will go around through the body. They're actually very mobile. They'll move quite a lot through the body, even through the blood, and then across blood vessels into tissues in some cases, and they will track down anything that does not resemble a human cell, and wrap itself around it and ultimately swallow it. Okay, so you can really see what's happening here. That's a great example of what that looks like. As they do, this is a very specific form of endocytosis. So they're forming a vesicle around all these bacteria they're swallowing, and they take that all the way to their lysosome, their digestive organelle. It contains a lot of enzymes that can help break this stuff down. So this is an important process, not just because this can result in killing pathogenic bacteria that's attacking you, but also it can be used to actually break apart these materials, these bacteria, and save parts of them. Viruses as well. I shouldn't just say bacteria, but it can save parts of them, and use those to actually inform the adaptive immune system about what's going on, like what's attacking you. So let's talk about those specific types of white blood cells that fall into this category. Okay, so the first one we want to talk about is a neutrophil. Okay, a neutrophil is the most abundant of our white blood cells. We actually have a lot of different kinds of white blood cells. These are our first responders to an infection. Okay, like I mentioned before, these are phagocytes. So one of their main jobs is seeking out, surrounding, and swallowing foreign bodies, things that don't belong. Neutrophils also have two other really important jobs. They are part of the process of stimulating inflammation. So they will actually produce some of those compounds like histamines and things like that. But they also, as they go about their job cleaning up a site of injury, they will also do something really crazy and cool called neutrophil netosis. Okay, this is something we sometimes call a beneficial suicide that these cells can do, where they literally will rip themselves apart and use their DNA, their own DNA, and the proteins that hold their DNA together, like their histones and things like that, and they will use that to create sort of like an entrapping net in their area, and this net has the capacity to trap microbes and hold them in place. It has like cytotoxic effects, so it can actually damage those trapped microbes. And it also can engage the complement system that we mentioned before. It can actually engage that and help it, again, mark these bacteria for collection and destruction, and also, forming those pores that rip them apart. Eosinophils are another important white blood cell, another important phagocyte. These are, much smaller representatives of your white blood cells. Only about 1 to 3% of your total white blood cell count are eosinophils. They also produce these granules. Okay, neutrophils also produce granules of these, secretions, things like that. These are, eosinophils will also make granules. And these granules are these collections of antimicrobial or immune stimulating compounds. Eosinophils can produce cytokines, which will also stimulate the immune response, but they also produce and secrete these antiparasitic compounds. So our eosinophils, their main job is in parasite control, like attacking animals and protozoans. And so, they have this really cool like swarming ability that is sometimes observed. This is a good representation of that in a microscope. This is a nematode that is being attacked by eosinophils. And so they will actually do like a swarming process where they'll surround and stick to these parasites and then, start secreting these compounds to attack and destroy them. Monocytes are a bit more abundant by comparison. These are 3 to 9%, again, also phagocytic. These are really interesting because they have the ability to differentiate once they leave the blood into one of two different types of cells. They can form a macrophage or a dendritic cell. Okay, a macrophage is mainly, they're mainly involved in hunting down these foreign cells, where they're really cruising around through tissues, looking for things that don't belong and swallowing them, doing phagocytosis. Dendritic cells also do phagocytosis, but their main job is in communication. So they will actually, if they swallow a pathogen, their big job is going to be taking the pieces of that pathogen to cells that belong to the adaptive immune system and essentially presenting it to them saying, hey, this is what is attacking the body. We also have basophils. Okay, so this is the only other white blood cell that is like non-specific as part of the innate immune system that is non-phagocytic. Okay, so this is a white blood cell that their main job is in the granules they produce, that they are making lots of different compounds and releasing them. They are mainly involved in that inflammation stimulation. So they'll produce a lot of these different mediating compounds, like these over here. These are different kinds of the basophils will produce these specific mediating compounds that regulate inflammation, and will also produce these as well. In this figure, these are mediators that are shared by other cell types like mast cells. And so, this is an important cell as well, but does not engage in phagocytosis.